Dark country. The movie begins in a hotel room in Las Vegas, where Dick is shaving while Gina is lying sensually in bed. It turns out that this couple has just had their first morning together as a married couple. After their first night of passion, Gina is tired and takes a while to get up, as is usual with girls. They are a totally sudden couple where they met and immediately got married. Then the newlyweds Dick and Gina decide to prepare to cross the Nevada desert for their honeymoon, driving at night to avoid the heat. But before leaving, a stranger in a coffee shop warns Dick to be careful, since couples are known to get lost on that road and not to leave the interstate. A scene with a rather strange conversation, but it was just that, and Dick follows his plan. Soon after, the couple realizes that they are going in the opposite direction and deviate from the highway onto another road. Dick turns off the car's headlights to drive in the starlight, and Gina pleasures herself to orgasm as they drive through the desert. The scene is magnificent, Gina with that heat she can't control, while she needs Dick's attention, but he is driving. He can only lend a hand to help mitigate Gina's heat. She rides and enjoys, while Dick tries not to lose control of the car, all in the starlight on a totally empty road. At that moment the sky fills with lightning. Dick turns the lights back on and immediately swerves to avoid a figure in the middle of the road. Upon investigating, they find a man seriously injured in a car accident. Unable to get a phone signal, they decide to take him to the hospital themselves, only for the road to come to a sudden end a few miles ahead. During the trip, the couple argues and the injured man wakes up with a scream. He asks Gina for a cigarette, advises her to leave her husband, and becomes increasingly erratic, eventually attempting to strangle Dick with his belt and nearly causing the car to crash. Gina stops the car and the two men fall, continuing to fight until Dick beats the stranger to death with a rock. Dick convinces his wife that they should get rid of the body, and together they bury it in a shallow grave. While Gina fills the hole, Dick finds a revolver in her purse. Soon after, they arrive at a rest area where several cars are parked. They make up and argue until Dick discovers that he lost his watch while they were burying the stranger. Refusing to turn back, Gina waits at the rest stop with the gun while Dick goes back to get his watch. Arriving at the place where they hid the body, Dick finds the grave empty. Gunshots echo through the desert and Dick runs back to the rest stop to find Gina gone. Nearby, he stumbles upon a woman's grave and notices that the other cars are rusted and covered in dust.
Panicking, he flees, almost colliding head-on with a sheriff's deputy. In the back of the police car, he rides with the officer to the rest stop, which now looks like an abandoned place, where the police are excavating murder victims from a mass grave surrounded by abandoned vehicles. The cop explains that this was where the rest stop had been 30 years earlier. Dick recognizes the spot as the place where he buried the stranger. As he watches from the back of the police car, an officer exhumes Gina's body and finds Dick's watch. Dick kicks out of the patrol car and escapes in one of the nearby vehicles, leading the police squad on a chase through the desert. Driving with his lights off, he loses them, but a short time later he runs into a swarm of bugs, losing control and rolling the car. Ejected from the wreckage of the crash, he is nearly hit by another car before passing out. Dick later wakes up to find himself in the back of his own car, hearing himself and Gina arguing, and realizes that he was the mysterious stranger he fought and murdered earlier in the night, screaming as he realizes this. Conclusion. The film presents you with scenes that are thought out in a comic book, and this is evident with the close-ups, as well as the variations in light on the faces and the road that remind you of Twilight. These scenes are a delight when the film starts, and although the plot is not so attractive, you continue to wait for the scenes shown. In this regard, we have the following words from the director and creator who is the protagonist of the film. "I wanted to make a film that was for people who enjoy films that are off the beaten track, said Jane. I wanted to make a film for fans of cult films, for fans of The Twilight Zone, for kids who stayed up late to see The Outer Limits when they were probably too young to do that. The film was released directly on DVD and not in 3D format as Thomas intended. Therefore, it was not released to the cinema either, but directly to home format. Those who had the privilege of seeing the 3D format were the critics, who spoke well of the film, as it is a good staging of a kind of homage to Twilight and comic book fans. These critics praised the acting and especially Thomas' direction. But there are also detractors, critics who disapproved of the film, both the direction and the acting, and who put forward the scenes with those light tones as the only attraction, but who at the same time found these scenes to be a complete ridiculous plot and somewhat absurd. But with respect to non-specialized critics, I think it is uniform. This is a total disapproval of the film, labeling it as an allegory of Twilight with an unattractive plot and terrible direction. But curiously, they seem to say that Twilight is a good series, but they do not like the photography of the film, which seems to me to be somewhat paradoxical and a bad point for their criticism. Criticizing the movie by alluding to Twilight was a bad idea, definitely, since it is a cult series already, so these criticisms seem to be just blasphemies. On my part, one could tell you, if what you like is movies like Endgame or The Dark Knight, Dark Country is bad, but if you like Twilight or Hit Cotha's movies, you will like this movie. It has its small defects, but it is good for home entertainment, since it was not shown in theaters. That's all from me, bye.